The State Department says it will soon start revoking U.S. passports of thousands of parents who own a significant amount of unpaid child support.
America, there's been a law on the books since 1996 giving the federal government the full legal authority to pull the passports of any parent who owes more than $2,500 in child support. Bill Clinton signed it. 30 years of presidents, Republicans and Democrats had this tool sitting right there, and they never used it the way that it was designed to be used. But here's the part that's getting buried in every mainstream headline. This is not the same program that's been around since 1998. For the first time in 30 years, the government is going into currently valid active passports and revoking them, not denying them, not catching people at the counter, going into the records and pulling them. This, my friends, has never happened before. Not once in 3 decades.
Trump administration is going to step up enforcement of a 30-year-old law. It lets the federal government revoke passports until payments are made.
What is up, guys? Tyson, DeLaCruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. On May 7th, 2026, the Associated Press broke this story after speaking directly with 3 U.S. officials who confirmed that this was coming down the hopper. The State Department then confirmed it publicly. Phase 1 of all of this starts May 8th, the very next day of the announcement. Phase 1 goes after 2,700 American passport holders who owe $100,000 or more in unpaid child support. What a bunch of bums. These are not people who just slipped behind a payment or two. These are people who've been blowing off court-ordered child support, sometimes for years, sometimes for decades, being deadbeats while holding a valid U.S. passport that let them travel anywhere in the world whenever they felt like it. They go travel, but they don't want to pay the child support. Okay. Make it make sense to me, chat. And here's how the State Department described their own policy on their own official website. This is their language here, not mine. Under President Trump, the Department of State is using common sense tools to support American families and strengthen compliance with U.S. laws. This includes preventing those who owe substantial amounts of court-ordered child support from neglecting their legal or moral obligation to their children. The key word to underline there, you guys, is legal and moral obligation. The State Department put those words in the same sentence on purpose because it isn't just a court order on paper. It's a parent abandoning their child. That's what it is. And now there's a real immediate consequence attached to doing it.
For years, if you owed at least $2,500 in child support, you couldn't renew your passport. But now officials say there's a plan to go further and start revoking passports that are already issued. The first group targeted will be people who owe more than $100,000, but that threshold is expected to drop over time. You can avoid losing your passport by setting up a payment plan. This won't affect citizenship, just the ability to travel internationally.
The last line in that clip is the one that matters here. Your citizenship stays intact. You are still an American. You just can't board an international flight until you pay what you owe your child. That is as targeted and proportional as an enforcement action gets here, you guys. They are not stripping identity like you stripped away being a parent from the child that you decided to bring into this world. They're removing privilege. Now here's where the story gets genuinely outrageous. The outrage is not directed at the deadbeat dads or moms, deadbeat parents in general. It's directed at the enforcement systems that was supposed to stop them and didn't. The 1996 law was clear. If you owe more than $2,500 in child support, that's $2,500 in child support, the government can deny or revoke your U.S. passport. That has been in federal law for 3 decades. But here is how they actually applied it. They only did something when the person walked up and applied or renewed for a new passport. So for instance, if you owed $300,000 to your kids and you held a valid, unexpired passport, you could go to the airport, clear security, and fly wherever and whenever you wanted in the country, untouched, uncounted for, completely free. All you had to do was remember not to renew. That was the entire strategy for getting away with it. Just wait out the expiration date, stay still, don't ask the government for anything. And then the government's 30-year response to do that strategy was essentially nothing. Until this week, only those who applied to renew their passports were subjected to a penalty. Under the new policy, HHS will inform the State Department of all past due payments of more than $2,500, and parents in that group with passports will have their documents revoked. 2 sentences. 30 years of broken enforcement systems explained in 2 sentences. You did not have to be smarter than the system. You just had to not ask the system for anything. That was the loophole. And now that loophole is closed because HHS is feeding its debt records directly to the State Department, whether you apply for anything or not. The database finds you now. They say, "We looking for the deadbeats. We looking for the deadbeat parents. Calling all the deadbeat parents."
The rollout begins with the high debt tier, individuals owing over $100,000. While this currently affects fewer than 500 people, the administration could eventually lower the threshold toward the $2,500 statutory limit, potentially impacting thousands.
The full phase 2 number doesn't exist yet because HHS is still collecting data from every state child support enforcement agency. When that count is done, 2,700 is going to look like just a little sample, just a little preview. I want to be clear about the politics here because some people are going to try to make this a partisan battle, and it is not. The Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act was signed into law by President Slick Willie Bill Clinton in 1996 as part of his welfare reform legislation. A Democrat wrote this. It has been in the books through George W. Bush, Barack Hussein Obama, and Donald Trump's first term, and Joe Biden. Can't forget Joey B. Every single one of them had the authority to proactively revoke passports. Not a one of them used it. Trump's second administration, they're going to start using it starting May 8th, 2026, and the State Department didn't wait long to find out if the announcement alone would change behavior here. Since the AP reported the expansion of the program on February 10th, the department said it has seen data of hundreds of parents who took action. Finally, they took action and resolved their arrears with the state authorities since the news broke with the State Department, and they would start proactively revoking passports. Now you want to show up. Now you want to be a dad. Okay. The announcement, not the actual revocation, just the news that this was coming down the hopper, already moved people, parents who ignored their court orders for years, suddenly, miraculously located their checkbooks. They said, "Oh, I owe money. I owe money for my 15-year-old that I haven't seen or paid child support to." That, my friends, is what real enforcement looks like. Not a letter, not a court date scheduled 2 years down the road. The threat of not being able to leave the country. Watch what happens when you make the consequences immediate and personal.
That rule, part of the 1996 Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act, has helped collect nearly $621 million in past due payments, according to the Department of Health and Human Services. But now the federal government is preparing to go a step further. According to U.S. officials who spoke to the Associated Press, HHS will soon begin revoking passports instead of just blocking renewals.
Because the law is already in place, they're not doing new law.
Attorney Habib Hasvini says the new rules will be an expansion of how the existing law is enforced.
But they want to start with people who owe a significant amount of money so they can start giving out.
Here's a scenario that hasn't gotten enough attention or coverage. What if you're a deadbeat parent and you're flying overseas with your side chick, you're traveling internationally, and your passport gets revoked? A passport holder who is abroad at the time of the revocation will need to visit the U.S. Embassy or consulate to obtain an emergency travel document that allows them to return back to the United States. Picture that conversation. Deadbeat dad is out in the country with his side chick. You're in another country. You land. You pull out your passport. Toot, toot. It doesn't work. You have to find the nearest American embassy and explain why your passport was revoked and get an emergency document just to fly back home. All because you owe back child support that you've been ignoring. And here's the timing issue that's getting completely overlooked in this story. Clearing your name from the federal denial list takes several weeks. Doesn't take days, it takes weeks. So if you know that you owe back child support and you have an international travel booked with your side chick, a payment plan that was started 2 days before your flight is not going to get you onto that plane. The clearance process does not move that fast here, you guys. This is not a problem that you solve last minute. And obviously, you're not good at that anyways.
You can avoid losing your passport by setting up a payment plan. This won't affect citizenship, just the ability to travel internationally.
A payment plan does not erase the debt. You still owe every single dollar, but it signals that the state child support enforcement agency that you're actually engaged. And that keeps your passport active while you work through the things that you need to work through. That door stays open. You just have to walk through it before the notice arrives, not after. This passport action is not happening in a vacuum. Watch how the administration enforcement philosophy across multiple different agencies connects with the same logic.
If you didn't commit a crime in the way you committed, in the way you became a citizen, I don't think you have anything to worry about. So I don't think it's true that those 24 million citizens are worried. I think there's a very small percentage of them who are worried. And yes, they should be.
Vlad Blanche conceded to us that revoking someone's citizenship is a drastic consequence and action, but he said that committing fraud to obtain that citizenship in the first place is also a drastic act by the person who is being targeted as part of this denaturalization campaign.
That same logic runs through every enforcement action this administration is running right now. Did you follow the law? It's pretty simple. If you did, you're fine. Did you break it? The consequences match what you did. A parent who owes $100,000 in child support is not losing their citizenship. They are losing their ability to travel internationally. The action fits the violation. That's how real accountability works. Put your big boy pants on. America, here's something nobody is saying plainly enough. Children who grow up without financial support from their absent parent doesn't just suffer financially. The outcome for the kids in the situations are obviously well documented. Lower education rates, higher poverty, more involvement with the justice system. That means they get involved into criminal activity. And the parent who walked away has been doing it freely, probably on multiple occasions, sometimes for decades or more, behind a valid U.S. passport that nobody has ever touched. There is no political constituency for deadbeat parents, no advocacy groups marching on Capitol Hill for people who owe $100,000 to their own children. These are the people that every administration quietly skipped over because there was no political cost to skipping them and no political reward for going after them. This, my friends, is what happens when the government finally stops treating existing laws as quote-unquote suggestions. The law has been there since 1996. The authority was there from day one. It just took 30 years and an administration willing to actually use it. The receipts don't lie. The kids are owed the money. Now, somebody is finally collecting. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comments section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.